Something I never talked about or bring up is that I'm a huge fan of the Souls games. Games developed by FromSoftware. I love the Dark Souls trilogy, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. My favorite Souls games may have to be either Bloodborne and Elden Ring. They're both perfect games to me. Now, I've only ever known FromSoftware as the people behind the Dark Souls games. Never really knew them for anything else. I'm fully aware they've made games before Dark Souls, like their previous franchise ArmoredCore, so I'm not completely a FromSoftware fan, just a fan of the Souls games they've made. But recently I felt like trying out their ArmoredCore franchise. I'm familiar with ArmoredCore, but I've only ever touched the first game. I've never fully played it. Considering we have a 6th ArmoredCore game on the way, I feel like now is a good time to fully play it. We'll also be covering the other ArmoredCore games that released for the PlayStation. The first ArmoredCore game was released for the PlayStation in October 1997 for North America. The game takes place in the future, where Earth's population was wiped out by a cataclysmic war known as the Great Destruction. Survivors would end up having to live underground for the next 50 years. During these 50 years, corporations would then come to power for a battle of supremacy. Two companies specifically, though, go head to head with one another: Chrome and the Murakama Millennium. During the conflicts with these two, a mercenary company was formed, known as Raven's Nest. These mercenaries exist independently, but will provide their services for the right price. With all the competition going on between these major companies, this will also provide opportunities for the Ravens, which then leads to your role in the game. You play as a Raven pilot. You pilot these giant mechs called Armored Cores, or ACs, and take on missions to gain credits. With these credits, you can purchase new items and parts for your mech. With that being said, let's cover the customization. So for the customization, I actually really like the amount of customization options you have in this game. There are so many parts to choose from. Each part can change your mech's stats and also have a special feature. Like, for example, some parts have better protection against energy attacks, others are more durable but increase your weight, while some offer the bare minimum essentials. Each selection of parts for your AC can impact your gameplay. Each headpiece contains sensors, radars, and other computing equipment. The heads pretty much offer navigation essentials. Cores can impact your AP, which is basically your health bar, and also come with extra features like extra slots for optional parts to add on to your AC. More on that in a bit. The cores are the most vital part for your AC. Plus, they include the pilot's cockpit. Arms can impact your performance, really only enhance your basic movements while operating weapons. Also, there are arms that will replace your standard arms, like these Gatling gun arms for example. Legs impact your movement, as well as how much weight or how many weapons you can carry. Each weapon or part has weight to them, and you have to make sure you can carry all of this, or else you'll be overweight and won't be able to do missions. Legs can also impact your speed. For example, lightweight legs. Sure, you can't carry any heavy weapons, but you have good maneuverability. You'll be able to dodge things quicker than usual, and if you put on heavyweight legs, while yes, you can now use all the heavy firepower weapons, but you'll also move very slow. And also your boost can run out faster because you're so heavy. FCS, which stands for Fire Control System, manages direct fire munitions for targeting both short range and long range. Boosters determine how fast you go and how high you can fly up in the air. Also, some boosters recharge faster than others, while others don't. Engine generators are responsible for supplying power to your mech. The better the engine you have, the more energy you have to use for your boosters, and also using your energy weapons. Optional parts are various modular units that boost your mech's performance. Also, the amount of optional parts you can hold is limited. Finally, you have your weapons. Your back weapons like missiles and chain guns that go on your back, basically your secondary weapons. And finally, arm weapons. All your rifles, machine guns, energy guns, and melee weapons. The last thing you can do to customize your mech is change your colors and include an emblem that you can freely create with. I wasn't able to make anything. Now for PS1 standards, The armor customization in this game is amazing. Honestly, my favorite part about these games so far. So the gameplay for ArmoredCore is alright. It plays like a third-person shooter. The tutorial for this game is simple, just take out 2 enemies. For the most part, you have a selection of missions to choose from. Look at that. A lot of these missions have really simple objectives. Objectives like eliminate all the enemies in the area, defending an area or convoy, protecting something like a train, rescue missions. Most of these missions are short. Most of them. The levels you play in are pretty open. Some of these missions have you explore multiple hallways. You do have access to a map by pushing select. Others are just a small map where you take out all the enemies in the area. When you leave the combat area, the mission ends. These levels are also very open, so you have plenty of space to move around. However, when fighting indoors, weapons like the missile will become useless because they'll hit the ceiling or walls instead of your enemies. During missions, you can't heal, and you also won't be able to recover any ammo. So once you run out of ammo, you're pretty much fucked. However, that's unlikely to happen. Since the missions are short, you'll have plenty of ammo to get the job done. Also, when you finish a mission, a lot of things you experience in these missions, like damage and ammo used, does get taken out of your check. So you're not getting that full 20k reward. You gotta cover all the damages, and also when you leave the combat area, not only does the mission end, but you still have to pay for the costs. Very rarely from my playthrough, I did find some weapons on the ground to pick up and keep. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Some missions don't reward you money. There are missions that'll reward you in parts or weapons. As for the enemies, I think there's a decent variety of enemies in this game. I think the worst to fight are the aircraft enemies, or really anything that can fly and only fly. And the reasons for that are the controls, which is actually the biggest complaint I have about this game. I'm not a fan of the controls. At first they feel odd, but after 15 minutes I did get used to the movement controls. My biggest problem is looking around. Now here's the thing, the PS1 controller didn't have analog sticks until later in the console's lifespan, and obviously they made this game with the original PS1 controller in mind. I get that, and you do get used to it, but I'm still not a fan of the controls. You use the top-down D-pad to move forward or backwards. You can also use the D-pad to look left and right. You can strafe left and right with L1 and R1, but to look up and down you have to use R2 and L2. Again, the movement controls you become used to, and the movement does feel nice and flexible once you get used to it, especially when you're boosting or flying. It's just looking around that sucks. Also, the look sensitivity is slow. I wondered if equipping different arms can improve on that, but I could barely tell the difference if it does or not. I know in future entries they did allow DualShock compatibility. I mean, you can play this game with an analog controller, but from my experience only the left stick works, and it's pretty much a replacement for the D-pad. From my experience, the right analog stick is useless and unmappable. And yes, you can configure the controls in this game. I did try modifying my look controls to only the trigger buttons, and all my movement controls to only the analog stick. A small change. It is kind of better. Anyways, moving on from that. There's other things to check out in this game. Like, there's a leaderboard. There's the mail. You do get some context of your current situation by reading the mail. There is a versus mode where you can locally challenge a friend. If your friend also plays this game, he can bring his mech over with his memory card, and you can both battle it out using your own personal mechs. To be honest, that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play versus mode, so that's all I can say about the versus mode. Now, despite this game's flaws, I still really enjoyed this game. It is a good game. My only problem are the controls. The best part about this game is the customization. Like I said earlier, seriously, for PS1 standards, I think the customization is phenomenal. Overall, I think this is a solid first entry. What about the other 2 ArmoredCore games that also released for the PlayStation? The second entry in the ArmoredCore series, Project Fantasma, and also a prequel to the original game, set 2 years before the first game. The game is pretty much the same as the first, the menu's the same, but now we have a new mode called Arena. Some new weapons and customization options. You can import your save from the first ArmoredCore game onto this game. You'll be able to transfer your ArmoredCore mech and emblem. So if you have played the first game, you have a good head start. Yes, you can still play this game without having played the first. For the most part, Everything is pretty much the same. Customization selection is the same catalog of stuff to buy, just with a couple of new parts to buy now. Really, the only thing new here is the arena and the missions. Arena mode is pretty good. Basically, you're going head to head with another mech, and you fight it out in this 3D arena until someone wins. That's it. You can watch a replay and see how the action played out. There are up to 50 mechs to fight, and you do earn credits for winning. Not a lot compared to the main missions, but at least you don't have to cover ammo and damage costs, which yes, you'll still be dealing with, but only for the mission assignments. As for the missions themselves, so the previous ArmoredCore game featured up to 50 missions, most of them being simple and short. Project Fantasma features up to 17 missions, so it's a lot less compared to the first game. However, the missions here are more linear and longer compared to the previous games. Also, there's more dialogue and context to what's going on within the missions. I do find the missions in this game a lot more enjoyable. Yeah, there are some that can be frustrating, and again, missions are longer, so if you mess up in the end, you gotta do the whole thing over again. You still can't heal, you still can't recover ammo within the missions, there are no checkpoints. For the ammo, again, the guns you have for the most part should be enough. There was this one mission where I did run out of ammo for my main weapon and barely made it out alive. I was able to pull through in the end, but it was a close call. Not to mention I was being timed, and the mission took my whole cut too. It can be exciting, yeah, but you have to keep in mind there's no checkpoints, so really try not to die. That leads us to the last thing this game has to offer, the story. You receive an unusual and cryptic message telling you to infiltrate a mysterious underground complex called Amber Crown. You're also promised a reward with this request. Don't forget, you're still a mercenary in this game. You encounter someone named Sumika Judalainen, who is an escapee from an evil shadow organization called the Doomsday Organization. Sumika is the one assigning you missions and pretty much your only client throughout the whole game, and also your partner because she does tag along during missions. You'll also come across another character named Stinger, who is kind of the antagonist in this game, but you never learn his motivation or reason for why he does everything. You only know that he works for the Doomsday Organization and that he gets in your way. Anyways, the Doomsday Organization. They are this evil corporation working on a secret project called Fantasma. Fantasma is this really powerful weapon that you and Sumika have to destroy. Stinger is obsessed with the Fantasma weapon, and spoilers, Stinger merges with Fantasma and tries to kill you and anyone that gets in his way. That's pretty much the story. Really, the story and the arena mode are the only new things here. Controls are still the same. One thing I did try out, can you transfer your mech from Project Fantasma to the first game? No. It was worth a try though. So yeah, you could say this game was basically DLC, or it can be called DLC by today's standards. Game DLC or expansions were sold as their own independent games back in the day, and Project Fantasma is pretty much a DLC sold as its own game. Although we're still not done. We still have one last ArmoredCore game for the PlayStation to cover. ArmoredCore Masters of an Arena, released 2 years after Project Fantasma. Now already one thing to mention about this game is that it features 2 discs instead of 1. The previous ArmoredCore games only came with 1 disc, while Masters of an Arena features 2 this time. The UI got a new look. You can still transfer your AC mech from either previous game, either the first one or Project Fantasma. There are 2 new additional options in the menu, Ranker MK and X Arena, which are only playable on disc 2. There is an arena option on disc 1, but it's only on disc 1 for reference only. So basically arena mode is unplayable on disc 1. It's only on disc 2 now. Only the story missions are playable on disc 1. So they basically separated the story and the arena modes and put them on their own disc. Once again, the armor customization is still pretty much the same, and the controls. The story for this game is the only thing that's different. A massive battle occurs between 2 corporations. Numerous civilian casualties had occurred. The Raven you play as is a survivor of this massive battle. He lost his entire family, swearing on revenge. So he joins the Raven's Nest so that he can fight his way to the top and kill Nineball, who is the antagonist in this game, I guess. You have another character named Lana Nielsen, who is like your manager. So the story missions are still linear like Fantasma, although I feel like the missions here feel more laid back and enjoyable. Also some improved in-game cutscenes. At some point in the game, you'll get this sponsor email from a company named ProgTech, and you'll be required to fight in the arena. This time, the arena mode has a lot more added onto it. There are up to 10 arenas and over 100 opponents to fight. You can choose which type of ACs to fight now: humanoid, four legs, caterpillar, and custom. One new thing I noticed, you can see how much health your opponent has now. A small but useful addition. So this time they did find a way to make the arena a part of the story. Now you would think because of this maybe the game is a lot longer, but no. Honestly, the game's length is nearly the same as Project Fantasma. While I'm talking about game length, yeah, I would say the first game is the longest one. And that was all the Armored Core games released for the PlayStation. Playing these for the first time, I did get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Project Fantasma and Masters of an Arena are basically expansions to the first game. It's just they were sold as standalone games because that's how it was back in the day. The games are enjoyable. Controls take time getting used to. Of course, I wasn't a fan of them. Of course, my favorite part about all three of these games has to be the customization. And you know, after playing these games, I would say I have a better understanding now of Armored Core. When Armored Core 6 was announced, I was excited for it. But since I had never played an Armored Core game, my original expectation was a Souls-like mech game. But now that I've played the first 3 Armored Core games, I would say my expectations are now more leveled. I think I now have more of an idea on what to expect after playing these 3 games. Yes, they are PS1 games. The franchise does change things in future entries. I still haven't played 2 through 5, but still, I think I have a better understanding of the Armored Core games now than I did previously. And after all this, I think I've become more interested in these games, and I'm now really looking forward to playing Armored Core 6 once that comes out. It is interesting seeing a new Armored Core game coming out, especially after seeing FromSoftware's Elden Ring success. I'm very interested to see how Armored Core 6 will turn out. Yes, I am aware the game's going to be different. Yeah, I'm really excited for that game. Really hoping that game turns out well. You know, after playing these games, I've seemed to have developed an itch to play more mech games. Will I cover the other Armored Core games? Possibly. Once this is out, I'm gonna move on to the next project. Maybe in the future. I will be playing Armored Core 6 when that comes out. I might share some thoughts on the game when the time comes. With that being said, I think these were great mech action games for the time. I did find them very enjoyable to play. I am really glad I played these before the new one came out. Other than that, if you made it this far, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.